This is 2012, and 700 million people in Africa are still living in extreme poverty on less than $2 a day, in a world where the rest of humanity lives in relative affluence on an average of $100 a day. Still, in 2012, most people across the world associate the word Africa with poverty. This should not be so, considering the great amount of natural endowments that exist on that continent, and the fact that the rest of the world has been contributing billions of dollars annually to fight poverty there. In the last 25 years, over $600 billion have been budgeted by Western developed nations towards African development. During the same period, the number of Africans living in extreme poverty rose from 200 million to 700 million in 2011. Obviously, the huge amount of money spent by Canada, USA, UK, France, and Germany, and the other developed nations towards Africa did not buy better life for most of the 800 million people in sub-Saharan Africa. The difficulty in Africa is that we are now being lumped into a global village where the IMF, the World Trade Organizations, and other UN bodies are setting the rules of finance and trade. These rules directly affect the livelihood of impoverished Africans. Such regulations may work well for the developed countries and the new developing economies in Asia, Europe, and South America, but they have been extremely harsh for most of the people in Africa. Even though we are now mostly in an open global economy, very few African entrepreneurs and governments have the required capital to participate fully in world trade. Therefore, the economic growth that should be trickling down to grassroots Africans has not happened as it did for China, India, and Brazil in the 80s and the 90s. Africans are still dying prematurely from poverty-related causes without fulfilling their God-given potentials of contributing their best to the world. The world we live in today runs on capitalism. What the approximate 500 million adults in Africa need today is the ability to work and earn decent incomes, which they can take care of their children's requirements in food, housing, health, and education. What they need is assistance in economic growth and jobs. Individuals in Western developed nations like Canada providing small donations to villages for water wells, to feed the children, to pay school fees, etc., has been happening for many, many years. But it has helped a few people. A huge number still remain behind, and at the current rate, it will take several generations to bring everyone up. Many of us are now fatigued doing this because we are not seeing the expected results. The reason is that we are providing band-aid solutions. We are giving handouts to people, feeding people, instead of helping them to stand on their own. The problem in Africa today is not the lack of schools or educated workforce. For example, a country like Nigeria has that makes up 20% of Africa, has 60 universities and colleges, and produce over 100,000 graduates every year. And yet, 70% of these graduates are seriously underemployed and or have no jobs at all. Now, the issue of incompetence is in several local governments. There is well documented. But economically empowered citizens will help advance democracy. We must encourage the Canadian government and our local NGOs, the large ones, to spend our development money on programs that allow people to work and earn their incomes and not continue to depend on us. As an example of such a program has already been developed by IC Africa here in Ottawa. It's called the Entrepreneur Assistance for Jobs Creation Program. It offers talented people in remote towns and villages business coaching and small capitals in the form of microloans so that they can grow their businesses, make more income for their families, create jobs for others, and eventually grow the local economies of their immediate communities. Now, through this program, we are currently targeting the poorest women in sub-Saharan Africa who require just an average of $50 in microloans to improve their immediate family incomes. Now, working with our field officers in partnership with local NGOs, we are able to easily reach these women and offer assistance. So far, this has been resulting in immediate improvement in the economic situations of the benefiting families. A mother of two children in Uganda, for example, who was yesterday just earning $3 a day in profit, will over the next week and moving forward begin to earn over $5 in daily profit, all because of a microloan of less than $100. What better way could we spend our development money? At IC Africa, we would like to work with the Canadian NGOs, individual Canadians, Canadian corporations, and Africans in diaspora to implement such programs in any village in Africa. It would not take $25 billion that Western governments currently allocate to Africa annually. It would only require a fraction of that, and we would be able to eliminate extreme poverty in Africa in 10 years. Please support IC Africa in this mission. Visit our website at www.icafrica.com and learn more and ask questions. Thank you for listening.